I don't know any girl who has like ever not felt uncomfortable walking somewhere at night or alone.
And I want to feel empowered and I want to feel great about my body that, I was born with, but something in me is just like, no, wear conservative clothes, be as safe as you can because you don't want to get raped, and I should not have to feel that way. I am definitely a feminist and I 100% believe in feminism.
I think that men and women should get treated with equal amounts of respect.
Feminism is kind of looking outside of just what issues affect you as a person and what affects women everywhere.
I think a lot of people think that feminism means like that girls are better than guys, that we deserve better than guys, but it just means equality. We just want to be treated the same as guys.
Like, yeah, we already respect men. We're just trying to get women on the same level, so.
So I think that historically, whenever women have particularly cared about anything, they've been labeled as, hysterical or hysterics. Like, it goes back to, I'm pretty sure, like the 18th century or the 19th century. And I just think that it's a way for people to discredit the movement and like for people to discredit the valid and, potent political arguments that are being made. When the easiest way to make someone feel like embarrassed or ashamed is telling them they're acting crazy or that they're being hysterical. So I think that it's kind of been a mechanism to stop people from speaking out and to feeling self-conscious about believing and thinking a certain way.
When a woman exhibits the same behavior as a man who is either like acting out or like irritated or just like angry about something, they're like a crazy bitch. But like if a man is exhibiting the same behavior, then they're not like a bitch. It's like very different. They're seen very differently.
Anytime you're a part of a marginalized group, you tend to be angry. You can't always be sunshine and rainbows and everything. And I know a lot of people say, you have to be nice because if you're nice, then people want to listen to you more. But a lot of the times you get angry. So I think as a general rule, you shouldn't be angry, but you definitely have a right to be.
No, of course I don't hate men. Love men.
If I see a man on the street, I'm not automatically like, oh, you're the worst. But a lot of men, especially our age, do have just like the idea that they deserve us, like they deserve our bodies, especially if they're nice to us. Men, straight men in general, I'm very weary of. I'm very weary of their intentions. I'm afraid of most men that I see just on the street. I think that they want something from me.
But there's obviously good guys out there, just like there's bad women out there.
There are like really good men in this world who deserve like appreciation just as much as like women deserve appreciation. It's just that like a lot of men that you interact with are disgusting. Sorry! Sorry, that's how I feel.
Do women have a right to be afraid of men? I think yes. I mean, I don't think it's so in the fact that, if you're sitting down in a restaurant and your waiter is a boy that you should be like afraid. But if I'm walking home and I'm out and it's just me and one other man on the street, like I'm going to take my headphones out and I'm going to be aware of my surroundings. I might cross the street. Like I think that women have kind of been taught their entire lives that strangers that are men are not their friends, that they're people that they have to be wary of and like protect themselves around.
Men don't really have that same worry in the way that we do. So I do think you have a right to be when there's enough evidence to.
There are so many instances where like you just don't know if you're in danger, and because men don't experience that, they don't have like the fear inside of them, so to them it's not an issue.
I think like a great example would be like if you're like meeting up with somebody from like a dating app or something like that. Like you kind of always have to set those precautions, and it's not a personal thing. It's not necessarily that you think that this person's gonna be harmful to you, but it's just women have been taught that like if you're going, you're meeting someone for the first time, you tell your friend where you're going, like let them know their name, their contact information. A lot of times it has kept women safe when they take these types of precautions, and it's sad that it has to be like that, but that's kind of just the current state of the world. So I don't think that you can really call yourself a feminist if you're not willing to talk about and do something and want to do something about the entire idea of rape culture.
Feminism is kind of the broader umbrella in which rape culture falls under. Because feminism isn't only about rape, but like rape is such a prominent issue.
They're intertwined in the ability to give women the same autonomy and the same power, whether it's on the streets or, in relationships as men.
Sadly, it's fact that most often women are the victims of rape. And I know that there are different circumstances where sometimes, a man can be a victim of rape, or there's, rape in LGBTQ relationships as well. But most often, it's the woman who is the victim.
What is rape culture? It's $1 million question. To simplify the concepts of it, if I was to explain it to somebody for the first time, I would say that it's the social norms and discrepancies that we have that enable violence against women's bodies, whether it's sexual violence or even physical violence.
Rape culture is a culture where sexual assault and abuse is normalized, and it's not a culture where people think rape is fine. Like, that's not what rape culture is. It's one where sexual violence is trivialized.
The fact that women need to be afraid if they're going out in public is part of rape culture. The fact that I need to think about what I'm wearing before I go out to a party or if I go to the grocery store is rape culture.
It's the idea of things like dress codes and like not letting girls wear tank tops to school because it's distracting to boys.
Ripped jeans and a tank top got her sent home from school.
After this girl, Stephanie Hughes, was sent home for exposing her female anatomy, specifically her collarbone.
It's the fact that your parents tell you from a young age you have to look and dress a certain way depending on the crowd you're around because they want you to look modest and they don't want people looking at you.
In my head, I'm always like, oh, I should probably leave before 2 a.m. so I don't get raped. It's not even just like the fear of like men constantly attacking me. It's more like the fear of like being looked at. Like, I know that when I walk down the street and if I'm walking past a group of like 5 guys, I'm gonna feel uncomfortable. And I think that is rape culture. Like, women should not feel uncomfortable to walk down the street.
I commuted for a semester with when I went to school, and walking home at night was the most terrifying thing because I live in the suburbs, and the suburbs has way too many cracks and crevices to hide in. So walking home at night was definitely not fun. If I'm in a cab and the cab driver gives me like a weird vibe, I always text my friends their approximate weight and eye color and hair color and defining marks. That might be a little bit extra. I don't know if that's a common women thing, but that's just me.
Rape culture definitely impacts my daily life and the way that I portray myself out in public. For me, I have a bigger chest, and that means that I have to be super, super wary of the clothes that I wear and the bras that I choose so that I'm not being flashy with my breasts and that I'm not showing cleavage. You will literally never see me wearing a shirt that's like low cut and cleavagey just because I'm so uncomfortable with the fact that a man might be looking at my boobs or something like that. And it's just like, I shouldn't feel that way. I really, really should not feel that way, but I feel that my body makes me like, I don't know, just like prey to men.
A lot of times curly hair is very sexualized by men. I've heard so many different comments that men have like said to me in regards to my hair that I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have my hair out. Maybe it attracts the wrong people, or I didn't know it was so sexualized to have your hair out, like that it's curly or anything like that.
So the thing that happened in this is something that happens all the time, where somebody will want to comment on my hair, but that's just like a way to get in.
Yeah, of course.
Your hair. I gotta go. Your hair. Like, how do you maintain it? I like it.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
I've literally heard comments like, I would love to have sex with your hair, and it was disgusting and bizarre, but these are just things that people are like, it's like the exotic or ethnic looking comments that they usually make. It's just funny when you think about how like disgusting these situations are, where you're like forced to feel uncomfortable because like, even if you say no and even if you leave, you're still like thinking about how weird that situation just was and like how real that situation is for like many, many women.
I have 2 brothers and I'm the only girl. And like, I would see like my mom like not care where my brothers were going. Like, they wouldn't say like, oh, like, who are you going with? Like, what guys are gonna be there? Like, but when I go out, it's like, you have your phone? Where are you going? Are there guys gonna be there?
That's not how I want to word that. that's, I think, how some people are, like that, for example. My mom went up to these two men very upset, and she was like, if you don't stop looking at my daughter like she's like a teenager, how dare you look at her like that? Like, I know what you're saying, I can like hear you whispering. And that was the first time in my entire life that I became aware that like, this is how some men look at me when I go out in the streets, despite the fact that I was 11 years old, like hardly had hit puberty.
I definitely did experience like some sorts of sexual harassment when I was a kid. Kid as in like middle school, high school, but like it really amplified when I reached the age where like men knew that I was legal. And I always think about this, like whenever like a man tries to like catcall me on the street, I literally want to be like, I'm 14 so that they can leave me the fuck alone. But like, that's so stupid to think that I have to like lie about my age in order for men to be like, okay, this is illegal.
The majority of women start to develop in that age, and that's really when the men are the boys around you, and the men, which is the worst part, start to take more of an interest in you, especially if you're out and about, like if you're out in the neighborhood, you know, if there are older men in the neighborhood, they start to catcall you at like 13 years old, which is really messed up.
I literally get catcalled every single day. Like, I swear to God, it's 2 p.m., I'll probably get catcalled by like 6 p.m. It's like, why do we live in a world where like I know that I'm gonna get like sexually harassed?
It's just about the constant worrying if that's gonna happen. Because like every time I'm walking somewhere, I'm like nervous that, what am I gonna do if it does happen? Like, how am I gonna respond if it does happen?
I make my class schedule so that I'm out before the sun sets. Like, wow. I make my education a second priority. Like, what? All my classes end at 4:50 so that I'm home by 6. Because I know when the sun goes down, baby, at 6, like I'm not safe anymore. And that's disgusting.
I was at a club, I was going out with a bunch of my friends. It was Halloween night and we were like dancing, having a great time, whatever. And this boy came up to me and just grabbed me by my genitalia and like tried dancing with me. And I was like, I'm sorry, in what world is that a way to approach women? And is that a way to like start a conversation? And it escalated, obviously, because I'm not one to keep my mouth closed.
I was upstate New York one time. I got off the bus, I sat down on the bench, the bus station was empty. I was like, great, I'm gonna die. And this guy comes and sits next to me. He's holding an empty Dunkin' Donuts cup. And he goes, I'm collecting money for charity. It's flag one. I already knew this guy is not collecting money for charity. This guy's trying to talk to me, but you know, whatever. I said, sorry, I don't have any cash. I was like, okay, great, he's gonna leave me alone. No. And he like scooted close to me and then he said, do you have a light? I was like, no, sorry, I don't smoke. This guy goes, oh, okay, no problem. 30 seconds later, sorry, did you say you don't have a light? I was like, no, I don't have a light. He comes in closer to me. I thought we couldn't even get any closer. He's sitting like right next to me. We're at an empty bus station. Like, there are benches everywhere. I'm sitting here, he's sitting here. He pulls out his like flip phone, flag 2. I was like, no one has a flip phone, sorry. Flag 2 was the light twice, flag 3 was a flip phone. I was like, he whispers in my ear, do you want to be friends? I said no. I said, no, I don't want to be friends. I'm texting my friend. I'm like, where the hell are you? Like, come now. Like, you need to come now. I'm on my phone. He goes, do you have a phone? I said, no, I don't have a phone. I'm like texting on my phone. So like, if any guy like tries to talk to you, any girl, just lie. Like, just lie. Lie. I always lie. Sorry, but like, I can't tell the truth because I think the truth is gonna kill me.
This is the poorest class I've had in a long, long time.
Oh, come now, Mr. Grimes. By taking it out on the boy, aren't you covering up a symptom of your own deficiency?
When faced with catcalling and harassment, I choose to ignore what's going on. And like I said, sometimes that works out, whereas the people who are like, why are you ignoring me, blah, 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 you're a disrespectful woman, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes ignoring the problem doesn't really help, but I also think that speaking back to the people and, you know, saying no and giving up some excuse also might not work.
So I think a lot of it depends on whether or not I'm alone or with people. and I have been known to mouth off about it, but I would never do that if I was alone because I would fear it escalating. I would only do that if I had like, you know, some people with me, or if I was in a really crowded area and like there was people, witnesses, I guess. But when I'm alone, I usually just like put my head down, put my hood up, keep walking, act like it didn't happen.
Oh, if I were to tell him to stop, is that going to trigger him and anything could happen? Or if I don't tell him to stop, what am I allowing?
I would probably react. I would probably be like, fuck off, or just ignore him and just like walk away. But at those moments where I feel that I'm unsafe, I'll probably just won't react, give him a little smile, like small smile, just so it doesn't seem like I'm completely ignoring him, and just walk away. Because you really don't know. You don't know the behaviors of people. You don't know who they are, if they're violent, if they will react in a bad way because you're turning down their advances.
I don't know, like there have been times where I've been, like somebody will be following me and I have to walk. I can't start running because if I start running and they start running, then God knows what could happen. And if I don't have any like self-protection, like it can really end terribly.
Yeah, I don't think there's any proper way to go about dealing with catcalling and reacting to catcalling. I just wish that catcalling wouldn't exist.
You're just making us uncomfortable. I never understand catcalling because it's not like someone's gonna be like, hey sexy, and I'm gonna be like, oh my God, like let's get married. Like it's never gonna happen.
So I don't think anyone that has ever catcalled somebody thought like, if I tell this girl she looks great, she's gonna walk across the street and be my girlfriend. I think it's a way of I think some people just think it's genuinely funny to make people feel uncomfortable. And I think it's kind of a way of reinforcing like, this is my space. I am the person that is dominant in this situation. It's a way of making people feel uncomfortable to walk down the street. It's a way of kind of addressing and averting some form of dominance over them.
A friendly attitude with a sprinkling of humor.
There was one time I was going to the gym. So I was in my regular leggings. Just leggings. I think it was winter, maybe. I was wearing a hoodie. And I was taking the subway and I had just left the platform. And it was during rush hour. So there was just a lot of people on the train, just commuting, going and switching trains. So I was going up the stairs and I just felt a hand go up my inner thigh. And at first I was shocked. Like I just didn't know what to do. Like I was stunned. My first reaction was to turn around and swing. I didn't know what. I know there was a lot of people. I didn't know who else swinging at, but my first reaction was I was mad and I wanted to hit whoever was touching me inappropriately. So I swung and actually, surprisingly, I connected with someone's face. And the reaction that I got was whoever I hit, whoever had touched me, got mad. And he tried to lunge at me. And I'm still shocked standing in the platform. I had women and men next to me just telling me to go. Just go up, just leave. They're pulling him away. He was still getting aggressive, at least the last I have seen him. But at that moment, the way I felt, it was one of the most uncomfortable feelings I've ever experienced. I was so grateful also for the gentleman that had pulled him away and got mad. And I kind of wish I could thank them, but at the moment I just wanted to get away. And, thank you to whoever were those people. And I know there were several people and several gentlemen that were mad and angry that it happened. And I'm thankful for the people that pulled me away and were comforting me and telling me that, he had no right. It was inappropriate. He should have never done that. And I do thank them, whoever they may be. There are good people in the world. The one thing about that, though, that kind of set me off wasn't even the gentleman that had done that to me. It was more so a comment from a woman that had witnessed this situation. And she came up to me. I think she was trying to be helpful. And she said, maybe you shouldn't wear your gym leggings.
on the train, and you wouldn't, that wouldn't have happened. That could have been avoided. Another woman had filled in for me. I think she said everything that she said. Doesn't matter. She's like, it really doesn't fucking matter what she wears. She could have been wearing a burlap sack. She could have been wearing a fucking garbage bag, and he still had no right to touch her that way or to even put a hand on her at all. And it's true. Like, why should women have to change their style, change the way they dress in order to protect themselves from circumstances like that, from situations like that? I think I was more mad at that woman's comment than I was with that person.
Rape culture is one where a lot of the times the victim is blamed. Like if a girl comes out and says that they were assaulted, a lot of times people will be like, well, what were you wearing? Were you alone? Were you drunk? And they try to like make an excuse so that it kind of makes sense that the person did it. Like if a girl's wearing like a scandalous outfit, they're like, well, what did you expect? You were looking for sex. And no, like girls dress for themselves. Like they dress to make themselves feel better, not for guys to hit on them or rape them. Just because a girl's wearing a short skirt doesn't mean she wants to be raped.
If someone got shot, what would you say, like, why were you standing in front of a gun?
If I'm not wearing a bulletproof vest, I'm not asking to be shot.
I think from an early age, because girls are always told these things and boys are never told like not to like act out or like be presumptuous about like what girls are wearing or doing or how they act, it like plants a seed of like victim blaming, and they think like whatever happens to them is their own fault.
I think it's just like little things like that. I've always seen women as like they should have done more than they did to make it not happen, instead of teaching boys that like, no, just don't do it, just take no for an answer.
A victim is someone who has been a victim of something. Like they are the people who are not at fault. So why would you ever blame the person that's not their fault? It doesn't make any sense.
I think that's like a quick resolve that people see. I think people like to, it's like a scapegoat in a way. It's really easy to do that because like resolving the issue itself of like rape culture and how like prominent it is much more difficult than just telling a woman like stop wearing this and like stop doing this.
But yeah, it's never your fault when you're the victim. Just remember that. And yeah, you can take some precautions, but it's never the victim's fault.
I think education on sex is so important. Like you are taught to, for example, how to open up a bank account. And if anything, sex is more important because just one decision that you make could really change your life for just forever. And I think it's so important. For example, I love the idea of teaching boys not to rape. I really do. And I think that's very important. But also, I think we should emphasize more on consent.
Consent is important because it clears up these things that people are like, oh, well, how was I supposed to know? You ask. It's very, very simple. Consent is very simple.
Consent is just like definitive yes. It can be verbal, but it also can be body language or just like facial expressions, but it just has to be, you guys have to both be on exactly the same page.
I think admitting to the like obvious realness of rape culture is not admitting like defeat.
I think that you need to recognize a problem exists before you can do anything to combat it.
And I think it's important to know what rape is, because if you don't know what it is, like you don't necessarily know if you're doing anything wrong.
I think that if we want to really dismantle what we have in place that enables rape culture, it really needs to start with early education. It needs to start with a formalized sex ed in every state across the country.
I think it needs to start with raising boys to become like respectful men, and so that can be parents, teachers, anyone who is involved in the development of a young man, to treat young little boys and girls the same way and don't like baby girls and then like tell boys to man up, because all that's doing is perpetrating what's already going on in our society. That's awful.
I definitely think that we should definitely keep talking about it, because there are still some people in this world who think that like rape is like the woman's fault, which is like ridiculous to me. I think it goes back to show that like a lot of people are uneducated about the subject.
It's never too late to unlearn problematic behavior. I think that a lot of the reason why we continue to perpetuate things like this is because we're like, well, we've been like this for so long, we don't know anything else. But it's never too late to start to rebuild things.
I think there are many, many ways to talk about it, and I think that you should just start with like teaching the people around you, because then they'll teach people around them, and it'll just be like a chain. And I think that if we didn't talk about it, like, we wouldn't be where we are now. Like, we don't know where we're gonna be, but if we didn't talk about it, then we wouldn't be where we are now. So if we just keep educating others on like what rape culture is and like what feminism is, like, we will see change. We just have to keep going and like keep trying, no matter what.